Although I have uploaded quite a few video essays, I still have not really explained what my beliefs are, and what are the reasons that led me to begin my own channel. So I decided to make this short piece where I will quickly narrate my political trajectory so people might understand where I am coming from and what the purpose of this channel is. I started to get interested in politics around 2015, when YouTube was still in its atheist versus creationist phase. A couple of years before that, I became an atheist, and it was obvious on which side I would stand. So I started watching many of what later became to be known as the skeptics. Everything seemed simpler back then. The arguments were easy to win, the people on my side were definitely cooler, and I could act smug all day long. At this point, I think I could be best described as a secular liberal, and was to be found here in the political compass. Of course, the creationists and the Christians in general lost, and the new issue that separated the quote-unquote skeptic community was of course Gamergate. For the boomers in my audience, Gamergate was an internet fight between progressive and libertarian, factions on the topic of games journalism. I personally was not very involved in this internet spat, however. This led me to becoming more libertarian and to see progressivism as a threat, which started to appear more and more in the real world after 2015, and not only in something stupid like games journalism. Then I started to get more involved in politics, especially as Donald Trump and Brexit got going, and despite being more or less neutral in both of these topics, I started to shift more towards conservative politics and away from libertarian ones. By 2018 or 2019, I actually became an outright Ben Shapiro watching conservative. However, quickly enough, I also became disillusioned with this movement because with time I felt that it was a superficial movement without much intellectual depth, besides rehashing William F. Buckley's argument for the past 70 years. This is the main reason why I believe that conservatism, as it stands, is doomed to failure. And then I started to unplug from politics. I started to read Marcus Aurelius and became more interested in Roman history, and history in general, too. This also led me to a change of life philosophy and lifestyle, where I started to become more disciplined, more focused on self-improvement, going to the gym, stop playing video games, etc. This change towards what I guess we could call self-improvement, which is a label that I don't really like, also had a deep effect on my political convictions. I started to realize that issues, 90% of the things that are discussed in politics, are practically useless. In theory, politics and policy are there to make people's lives better. However, I became convinced, and I still am, that the only thing that can truly help a society or an individual is not policy, but individual and social virtue. As I read more philosophy and political theory, such as Schopenhauer, Jünger, and Yarvin, I also began to find deeper and deeper disagreements with my previous conservatism, but more broadly with almost all of the political spectrum. If I already found it difficult as both an atheist and a conservative to find people who I could agree with, the more and more I made up my mind, the harder it was to find like-minded people, and today I do not know a single person that agrees with me, and frankly, I am sick of it. This is the purpose of this channel, to spread my ideas, because it is boring to be the only one that holds them. What are my political beliefs and where do I stand? Now, I am definitely not a progressive or anything approaching a hippie. I think that such people and their ideology are the greatest source of contemporary decadence. Neither am I a libertarian because I do not see individual liberty as the greatest good. My definition of the greatest good is simple: individual and social survival. Survival is the greatest good, and all values are useless without it. I do not have an orthodox stance on anything besides that. For me, it is not the principles, but instead the result that counts. I think that I could best describe myself as a post-conservative, as someone that still stands to the right but does not believe that the conservative movement represents the future and that it is something that must be overcome. The biggest issue on the right wing is what I will call a crisis of quality. There is a lot of right wing content, but the great majority of it is shit quality. The source of this lack of quality is that conservatism simply cannot respond to the challenges that arise from the modern world and modern technology. Nowadays, they can only really offer the status quo of the 90s, and that is no intellectual achievement. My political goal is simple: to be one of the few right-wing channels and publications that can write essays of what I hope to be a high quality and can actually provide a coherent ideology that stands on the right wing. Acknowledgements. To end this long overdue introductory video to this project, I would like to thank the channels that most inspired me to begin my own channel. The first one is the Schattenmacher, and the second one would be the Distributist, which I both highly recommend. Finally, I would like to thank one of my best friends for actually pushing me to take the first step. Now let's see how it all turns out. And of course, thank you for watching.